Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the endless stars. The new horizons moved slowly through space, far from any planet or station. Jake had been exploring these empty regions for 3 years now. His job was simple: find new worlds and make maps of unknown space. The galaxy knew humans as the quiet ones. For 300 years, ever since Earth made contact with alien races, humans had been peaceful. They traded fairly, talked instead of fighting, and always tried to avoid wars. Other species respected humans but thought they were soft. The big Galactic Council often used human diplomats to solve problems because humans were good at making everyone happy. Jake's crew was small but skilled. Lisa Park handled navigation and could plot courses through the most dangerous space. Grant kept the engines running and could fix anything that broke. Dr. Amy Brooks studied alien life and had discovered 12 new species in the past year. They all trusted each other completely. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Lisa said from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "There's a massive object about 2 hours ahead of us. It's not on any of our maps." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The scanner showed a huge structure floating in empty space. It was bigger than most space stations and looked very old. "Any signs of life?" he asked. Amy checked her instruments. "No life signs, but there's definitely power running through parts of it. Whatever it is, it's been here for a very long time." Paul looked up from his engineering console. "Boss, that thing is ancient. My sensors say it's at least 50,000 years old, maybe older." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. 50,000 years was longer than any known civilization had existed. The oldest alien race they knew about had only been in space for 30,000 years. "Take us closer, but stay alert. If anything goes wrong, we jump to light speed immediately." As the new horizons approached the structure, everyone on the bridge fell silent. The station was enormous, stretching for miles in every direction. Its design was unlike anything they had ever seen, yet something about it felt familiar. The metal was dark with age, but the basic shape reminded Jake of human architecture. "This is impossible," Amy whispered. "Look at those patterns on the hull. Those geometric designs, they look almost human." Lisa frowned at her readings. "Captain, the station is responding to our approach. Something just powered up inside it." Jake's heart started beating faster. "Weapons?" "No, sir. It looks like docking systems, like it wants us to come aboard." Paul shook his head in disbelief. "How can something this old recognize our ship? We're using technology that was invented less than 200 years ago." Jake made his decision. "We're going aboard, but we go in fully armed and ready to leave at the first sign of trouble." They docked with the ancient station through an airlock that seemed designed for human-sized beings. The corridors inside were dark but clean, as if someone had been maintaining them. Emergency lights came on as they walked, lighting their path deeper into the structure. "The air is breathable," Amy reported, checking her scanner. "Oxygen levels are perfect for humans. Temperature is exactly what we'd want it to be." They found themselves in a vast chamber filled with computer terminals and data storage systems. The technology was far more advanced than anything humans had, but the controls were labeled in symbols that looked almost like very old human writing. "This can't be right," Jake said, staring at a wall covered in star maps. "These charts show human space, but they're thousands of years old. Humans weren't even in space 50,000 years ago." Amy was examining one of the computer terminals. "Jake, you need to see this. I think I can read some of these symbols. They're like ancient human languages, but much older than anything in our history books." As she touched the terminal, it came to life. Images flashed on the screen, star charts, ship designs, and what looked like battle formations. All of it was clearly human in origin, but impossibly ancient. "We need to document everything," Jake said. "This changes everything we know about human history." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, other events were unfolding. Ambassador Karen White sat in the Galactic Council chambers, trying to negotiate with representatives from dozens of alien species. The topic was always the same these days: the growing threat of the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were tall, powerful beings who believed that might made right. They had been expanding their territory for decades, conquering weaker species and turning them into slaves. Their military was strong, and their leader, Emperor Vex, seemed to enjoy causing suffering. The Zephyrians have attacked 3 more worlds this month, Karen told the council. We need to take action before they grow too strong to stop. A delegate from the Alteran Republic shook his head. What can we do? Their fleet is twice the size of ours. They have better weapons and more soldiers. The humans could help, suggested a representative from the Peaceful Centauri Alliance. They're good at finding solutions without fighting. Several other delegates laughed. The Vegan ambassador spoke for many of them. The humans are too soft. They talk about peace and cooperation, but when real fighting starts, they hide behind. They're diplomats. Karen felt frustrated but kept her voice calm. Humanity has always preferred negotiation to war. That doesn't make us weak. Doesn't it? Asked the Martok delegate. The Zephyrians call humans the silent weaklings. They say you're only good for serving drinks at peace talks. Before Karen could respond, an urgent message came through on her communicator. It was from Earth's government. 3 human colonies on the outer rim had gone silent. The last transmission from each colony had been the same. Zephyrian warships approaching. Karen's blood went cold. The Zephyrians had finally decided to test human resolve. She looked around the council chamber, at all the alien faces watching her. Most seemed curious to see how humans would respond to a direct attack. Back on the ancient station, Jake's team had made an incredible discovery. Deep in the computer files, they found records that suggested humans had once been a major power in the galaxy. Not just any power. According to these files, ancient humans had been the dominant species, controlling vast areas of space through superior military technology. This has to be wrong, Paul said, reading over Amy's shoulder. Humans have only been in space for a few centuries. We've always been peaceful. Amy shook her head. The evidence is right here. According to these records, our ancestors built this station and dozens like it. They had technology that we can't even understand today. Jake studied a star map that showed the extent of the ancient human empire. It covered nearly half the known galaxy. If this is true, what happened? Why? Did they disappear? And why don't we remember any of it? The answer came from a file that Amy translated with growing excitement and horror. The ancient humans had been warriors beyond compare, but they had also been destroyers. Their wars had devastated entire sectors of space. Finally, recognizing the danger they posed to all life, they had chosen exile. They had hidden their technology, wiped their own memories, and retreated to a small world on the galaxy's edge. That world was Earth. Modern humans were the descendants of the galaxy's former masters, deliberately made peaceful to prevent them from repeating their ancestors' mistakes. There's something else, Amy said, her voice barely a whisper. According to this, there's a failsafe. If humanity ever faces extinction, if we're ever pushed too far, there's a system designed to wake us up. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Wake us up to what? Before Amy could answer, Lisa's voice crackled over their communicators. Captain, we're receiving an emergency broadcast from the Galactic News Network. The Zephyrians have attacked New Terra Colony. They're calling it a demonstration of power. Jake closed his eyes. New Terra was home to 50,000 humans, including many families with children. If the Zephyrians had attacked there, it meant they were no longer content to threaten. They were ready for war. Amy, keep working on those files. Find out everything you can about this failsafe system. As Jake spoke, neither he nor his crew noticed the gentle hum that had begun deep within the ancient station. Lights that had been dark for millennia were starting to flicker to life. Somewhere in the vast computer network's ancient programs were stirring, responding to signals they had been waiting 50,000 years to receive. Dr. Amy Brooks worked for 3 days straight, barely stopping to eat or sleep. The ancient computer files were like a puzzle with missing pieces, but each translation revealed more shocking truths about humanity's past. Jake and the others took turns bringing her food and checking on her progress. I've got it, Amy finally announced, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. I can read their language now. And Jake, what I'm finding changes everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Jake hurried to her side, followed by Lisa and Paul. The computer screen showed star charts and battle records that looked like they belonged in a nightmare. Ancient, human fleets had swept across the galaxy like a storm, conquering world after world with tactics that no enemy could match. Our ancestors weren't just warriors, Amy explained, pointing to the battle reports. They were the perfect killers. Every human was born knowing how to fight, how to plan battles, how to destroy enemies completely. They didn't just win wars, they ended civilizations. Paul stared at the screen in disbelief. That's impossible. Humans are peaceful. We've always been peaceful. Amy shook her head. No, we haven't. According to this, ancient humans were so good at war that other species called them the Deathmakers. They could look at any enemy and instantly know how to defeat them. It was like they had war programmed into their DNA. Lisa read over Amy's shoulder. But if they were so powerful, what happened to them? Why did they stop? Amy pulled up another file and the answer made everyone go quiet. The ancient humans had realized they were too dangerous to exist. Their wars had killed billions and left entire star systems empty and dead. They had become so good at destruction that they were destroying the galaxy itself. So they made a choice, Amy continued. The greatest warriors in galactic history decided to give up their power. They built stations like this one all across their territory, then used advanced technology to change themselves. Jake leaned closer to the screen. Change themselves how? They locked away their warrior instincts. They erased their own memories and made themselves peaceful. Then they traveled to a small, isolated world where they could live quietly without threatening anyone else. Paul's eyes widened. Earth. Earth, Amy confirmed. Modern humans are the descendants of the galaxy's most feared species, deliberately made peaceful to save the universe from ourselves. The implications hit everyone at once. Humans weren't naturally peaceful. They had been artificially made that way. Somewhere deep inside every human was the genetic memory of the galaxy's most successful predators. There's more, Amy said, her voice trembling. They created something called the Heritage Protocol. If humanity ever faced complete extinction, if we were ever pushed beyond our limits, the protocol would activate. It would unlock everything they had hidden inside us. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean, unlock? Amy showed them a detailed schematic. The warrior instincts, the tactical knowledge, the ability to see weaknesses in any enemy. It's all still there, buried in our DNA. The protocol doesn't give us new abilities. It just reminds us what we used to be. Before anyone could respond, Lisa's communication panel began beeping urgently. She ran to answer it, her face growing pale as she listened. Captain, she called out, we're receiving multiple emergency broadcasts. The attack on New Terra. It's worse than we thought. The main screen lit up with news feeds from across the galaxy. Jake and his crew watched in horror as reports came in from the human colony of New Terra. The Zephyrian attack hadn't been a quick military strike. It had been a massacre designed to terrify. Emperor Vex himself appeared on the broadcast, standing over the bodies of human colonists. His reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile as he spoke to the camera. Let this be a lesson. To all the silent weaklings, Vex declared. Humans exist to serve their betters. Those who resist will share this fate. The camera panned across scenes of destruction. Homes had been burned, families torn apart. Children who had survived were being loaded onto Zephyrian slave ships. The colonists had tried to fight back, but their peaceful nature had made them easy targets. 50,000 people, Jake whispered. They killed 50,000 innocent people. Amy was staring at her computer screen with a strange expression. Jake, something's happening. The station's systems are activating on their own. All around them, lights were coming on. Computer terminals that had been dark for millennia were powering up. Deep in the station's core, ancient machinery began to hum with energy. The Heritage Protocol, Amy breathed. The massacre at New Terra. It's triggered the failsafe. Jake could feel something changing inside himself, like a door opening in his mind. Suddenly, he found himself looking at the star charts differently. Instead of seeing exploration routes, he saw strategic positions. Instead of thinking about trade routes, he was calculating attack vectors. "Captain," Paul said, his voice strange. "I know how to upgrade our engines. I don't know how I know, but I can make them twice as fast and 3 times more powerful." Lisa was studying the navigation charts with new eyes. "I can see patrol patterns in the Zephyrian fleet movements. They have weaknesses they don't even know about." Amy continued working at the ancient computer, but now she understood the technology as if she had built it herself. "The protocol isn't just affecting us," she said. "It's sending signals to every human world, every human ship, every human outpost in the galaxy." On Earth, deep underground bunkers that no one remembered were coming to life. General Steve Parker had been enjoying a quiet morning when his personal computer began displaying activation codes he had never seen before. The codes led him to a hidden entrance beneath the Pentagon, and stairs that went down much further than any building should. The underground complex was vast, filled with technology that seemed both alien and familiar. Weapons that looked like they belonged in museums were actually more advanced than anything Earth's military possessed. Ships that had been waiting in hidden hangars for 50,000 years began their startup sequences. Admiral Lisa Chen received similar codes at the Naval Academy. The codes led her to a hidden facility beneath the ocean, where ancient submarines waited in flooded docks. But these weren't normal submarines. They were designed for space travel, capable of moving between stars as easily as moving between continents. Across the galaxy, every human settlement was experiencing the same awakening. Farmers found themselves thinking like generals. Merchants began seeing supply lines as strategic assets. Teachers started understanding psychological warfare tactics they had never studied. On the space station above Earth, Ambassador Karen White was meeting with other human officials when the changes began. Suddenly, instead of thinking about diplomatic solutions to the Zephyrian threat, she found herself planning a war that would end the Empire completely. "We need to recall all human ships," she said, surprising herself with the authority in her voice. "And we need to start production on technologies that have been classified beyond top secret." "What technologies?" asked Director Mark Johnson, from Earth's Defense Council. Karen smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. "Technologies our ancestors built to end civilizations." Back on the ancient station, Jake and his crew were changing. The peaceful explorers who had discovered the station were becoming something far more dangerous. Jake looked at his reflection in a dark computer screen and saw a stranger looking back. Someone with cold, calculating eyes that seemed to know exactly how to hurt enemies in the most efficient way possible. "The signal has reached every human world," Amy reported. "The Heritage Protocol is fully active. In 72 hours, every human in the galaxy will remember what we used to be." Jake nodded, feeling knowledge flow through his mind like water through a broken dam. He knew things he had never learned: how to plan battles across multiple star systems, how to break enemy morale with psychological warfare, how to turn any advantage into total victory. "The Zephyrians wanted to see what happens when they push humans too far," Jake said quietly. "They're about to find out." Around them, the ancient station continued to wake up, its systems reaching out across space to connect with similar stations throughout the galaxy. The network that had once controlled the greatest military force in galactic history was coming back online. Humanity's long sleep was ending. The galaxy's former masters were remembering who they used to be. The dream started the same night across every human world. Millions of people went to sleep as peaceful citizens and woke up with memories that weren't their own. A farmer on Earth dreamed of commanding star fleets. A shopkeeper on Mars saw herself planning the perfect ambush. A teacher on Luna knew exactly how to break enemy communication networks. Jake Morrison stood in the shower aboard the New Horizons, watching the water run red. He had been dreaming of ancient battles where humans fought with weapons that could crack planets in half. In his dreams, he had been there, commanding fleets that moved like hunting packs through enemy territory. The dreams felt more real than his actual memories. "Captain, you need to see this." Lisa's voice came over the intercom. She sounded different, harder, more focused. Jake dressed quickly and made his way to the bridge. Lisa was standing over, A tactical display that showed the entire sector around them, but instead of the peaceful exploration charts they usually used, this display showed enemy positions, patrol routes, and weak points in Zephyrian defenses. "Where did you get this tactical data?" Jake asked. Lisa looked confused for a moment. I made it. I woke up this morning and I knew where every Zephyrian ship in this sector was located. I knew their patrol schedules, their supply routes, everything." Paul emerged from the engine room, his clothes covered in grease. "Boss, I've been working on the engines all night. I upgraded them using technology I somehow understand but never learned. We're now faster than any ship in the Zephyrian fleet." Amy joined them on the bridge, carrying a data tablet filled with information about Zephyrian biology and psychology. "I've been analyzing their species all morning. I know their weaknesses, their fears, exactly how to break their will to fight. The knowledge just came to me." Jake nodded slowly. The same thing was happening to him. When he looked at star charts, now he didn't see exploration opportunities. He saw invasion routes, supply lines, and strategic choke points. Military knowledge was flowing through his mind like water through a broken dam. On Earth, General Steve Parker descended deeper into the underground complex beneath the Pentagon. The facility seemed to go on forever, level after level of advanced technology that had been waiting in darkness for 50,000 years. Automated systems recognized his genetic signature and began showing him weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Sir," his aide, Colonel Brian Price, said nervously, "some of this technology is beyond anything we've ever seen. These weapon designs could wipe out whole star systems." Parker studied a schematic for something called a star killer, a device that could make suns explode. The technology was terrifying, but somehow he understood exactly how it worked. "Our ancestors built these weapons to end wars quickly. The faster you can destroy your enemy, the fewer people die on both sides." Admiral Lisa Chen was having similar experiences at the underwater facility. Ancient submarines designed for space travel were powering up around her. Their weapon systems were online and ready for combat. Like Parker, she found herself understanding technology that should have taken years to learn. "Ma'am," her officer, Commander Tony Ward, reported, "we've received similar reports from secret facilities all over Earth. There are hidden bases on every continent, under every ocean. Some are built into mountains, others are floating in space where no one ever thought to look." Chen nodded. The Heritage Protocol wasn't just giving humans their memories back. It was revealing the massive military infrastructure their ancestors had built and hidden across the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian Empire was celebrating their easy victory at New Terra. Emperor Vex hosted a feast in his palace, where captured human slaves served food to his officers. The display was meant to show the galaxy that humans were weak and helpless. The silent weaklings didn't even try to fight back, General Crix boasted, tearing meat from a bone with his sharp teeth. "They just stood there crying while we took their children." Emperor Vex laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "Humans are natural slaves. They're soft, peaceful, and scared of violence. We should have conquered them decades ago." What the Zephyrians didn't know was that their victory celebration was being watched. Human intelligence networks that had been dormant for millennia were coming back online. Every word, every plan, every weakness was being recorded and analyzed. Back on the ancient station, Amy had made another breakthrough. The Heritage Protocol was more complex than they had first understood. It wasn't just unlocking genetic memories. It was connecting every human to a vast network of knowledge and experience. "Jake, look at this," she said, showing him a display that looked like a spiderweb made of light. "Every human who's ever lived, every battle they fought, every lesson they learned, it's all stored in this network. The protocol is downloading 50,000 years of military experience directly into our minds." Jake studied the network map. He could see connections stretching across the galaxy, linking every human settlement to the ancient knowledge base. "How long until the download is complete?" "At current rates, about 48 hours. But Jake, there's something else. The network isn't just giving us knowledge, it's coordinating us. Every human is becoming part of a single military intelligence." Lisa looked up from her tactical display. "I can confirm that. I'm receiving information from human ships I've never met, in sectors I've never visited. It's like we're all sharing the same mind. The transformation was happening everywhere. On human colonies across the galaxy, peaceful farmers were remembering how to build fortress cities. Merchants were recalling supply chain tactics that could starve entire star systems. Diplomats were understanding psychological warfare techniques that could break enemy morale without firing a shot. But the most dramatic changes were happening to the children. Human kids who had been playing games the day before were now drawing battle plans with crayons. They spoke in tactical terms they had never heard, understood weapon systems that hadn't been built yet, and asked questions about enemies they had never met. On the colony world of Haven, 8-year-old Billy Chen asked his mother, "Mom, when are we going to start building the orbital defense platforms? The Zephyrians will come here next and we need to be ready." His mother, Maria Chen, felt a chill run down her spine. Billy was right. She didn't know how she knew, but she could see the Zephyrian attack patterns as clearly as if they were written in the sky. Haven would be their next target, and it would fall unless they prepared quickly. Similar conversations were happening on every human world. The Heritage Protocol wasn't just changing adults. It was awakening something in human children that had been sleeping for thousands of generations. Emperor Vex would have been less confident about his easy victories if he had known what was happening in human space. While he celebrated the conquest of New Terra, human shipyards were being retooled to build vessels that could crack moons. While his generals boasted about human weakness, human commanders were planning operations that would end the Zephyrian Empire in days rather than years. The ancient station where Jake and his crew worked continued to coordinate the awakening. Signals flowed between hidden bases, connecting military minds across impossible distances. The network that had once controlled the galaxy's greatest military force was rebuilding itself. Jake stood on the bridge of his transformed ship and felt the weight of 50,000 years of human warfare pressing down on his mind. He was no longer just an explorer. He was becoming something the galaxy hadn't seen since humans had chosen exile. He was becoming a weapon designed specifically to end civilizations. "Amy, how much longer until every human is fully connected to the network?" Amy checked her readings. 12 hours, maybe less. After that, humanity will remember everything we used to be." Jake nodded, feeling ancient knowledge settle into his bones like ice. The Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake. They had triggered the awakening of something that their ancestors had once fled from in terror. The galaxy was about to remember why humans had once been called the Deathmakers. The transformation was complete. Across the galaxy, humanity had awakened from its long, peaceful sleep. What the Zephyrians faced now was not the quiet species they had bullied for decades. They faced the return of the galaxy's former apex predators. Admiral Lisa Chen stood on the bridge of the Eternal Storm, a warship that had been hidden beneath Earth's oceans for 50,000 years. The ship was alive with ancient technology that responded to her thoughts as if it were part of her body. Around her, a fleet of similar vessels prepared for humanity's first military action since the Great Exile. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Commander Tony Ward announced. His voice carried the same cold efficiency that had infected every human in the fleet. The peaceful exploration officers of yesterday had become something far more dangerous. Chen studied the tactical display showing Zephyrian positions throughout the sector. Their patrol patterns were predictable, their formations weak, their supply lines stretched thin. It was almost insulting how easy they would be to destroy. "Begin the operation," she ordered. "Show them what happens when someone hurts our people." Light years away, Captain Jake Morrison's upgraded New Horizons dropped out of hyperspace near a Zephyrian slave convoy. The convoy consisted of 12 transport ships carrying human prisoners from New Terra, protected by 6 warships that the Zephyrians considered unbeatable. Jake's crew had changed completely. Lisa Park calculated firing solutions with machine-like precision. Paul Grant managed weapon systems he had never seen before with perfect skill. Amy Brooks analyzed enemy psychology to predict their reactions before they made them. "Enemy ships are hailing us," Lisa reported. "They're demanding we surrender." Jake smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "Tell them we decline." The Zephyrian commander, Captain Vrock, appeared on the main screen. His reptilian features showed amusement at the sight of a single human ship facing his entire convoy. "Foolish, human," Vrock hissed. "You are outnumbered 12-1. Surrender now and we will make your death quick." Jake studied the alien captain with new eyes. He could see weakness in Vrock's posture, fear hidden behind the arrogance, tactical mistakes in the convoy's formation. Ancient knowledge told him exactly how to break this enemy's will to fight. "Captain Vrock," Jake said calmly, "you have 30 seconds to release the human prisoners and surrender. This is your only warning." Vrock's laughter echoed through the bridge. "One human ship against my entire fleet? You have lost your mind." Jake's smile grew colder. "You're right. It's not a fair fight. I should have brought a smaller ship." The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The New Horizons moved through the Zephyrian formation like a shark through a school of fish. Every shot was perfectly placed, every maneuver calculated for maximum psychological impact. The human ship's weapons didn't just destroy enemy vessels, they dismantled them piece by piece, making sure the surviving Zephyrians could see exactly how outclassed they were. Captain Vrock's flagship was the last to fall. Jake disabled its weapons and engines but left life support intact. He wanted survivors to spread the word about what had happened. "Impossible," Vrock whispered as his ship drifted helplessly. "Humans are peaceful. You don't know how to fight." Jake's image appeared on Vrock's screen. The Zephyrian captain barely recognized the being looking back at him. This wasn't the soft, diplomatic human he had expected. This was something ancient and terrible, something that looked at him like a predator, studying prey. "We remember now," Jake said quietly. "We remember what we used to be. And Captain Vrock, you have no idea what's coming for your empire." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human ships engaged Zephyrian forces. Every battle ended the same way: complete human victory with minimal casualties on the human side. The Zephyrians, who had terrorized other species for generations, found themselves facing an enemy that was better at warfare than they had ever imagined possible. On Earth, General Steve Parker coordinated the global response from his underground command center. Screens showed human fleets moving across the galaxy with perfect precision, each ship knowing exactly where it needed to be and what it needed to do. "Sir," Colonel Brian Price reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Zephyrian commanders. They're begging for mercy." Parker studied the tactical displays showing Zephyrian fleet positions. Most of their forces were retreating toward their home territory, but they were being herded like cattle by human ships that seemed to know their every move before they made it. "No surrender," Parker said coldly. "They showed no mercy to our children at New Terra. They get no mercy from us." Emperor Vex sat in his throne room watching reports of defeat pour in from across his empire. In 12 hours, humanity had destroyed half of his fleet and liberated every human slave in Zephyrian space. His generals cowered before him, unable to explain how their mighty empire was being torn apart by a species they had considered weak. "How is this possible?" Vex roared. "Yesterday they were helpless sheep. Today they fight like demons." General Crix, who had boasted about human weakness just days before, trembled as he spoke. "My lord, they're not the same species we attacked. Something has changed them. Our analysts say they're fighting with tactics that are 50,000 years old." Vex's blood ran cold. 50,000 years. That was when the ancient legends spoke of the predecessors, a species so skilled at warfare that they had conquered half the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing. The legend said they had withdrawn voluntarily, choosing exile over continued dominance. "The humans," Vex whispered. "The humans are the predecessors." Back on the ancient station, Amy Brooks monitored the Heritage Network as it coordinated humanity's response. Every human ship, every commander, every soldier was connected to the ancient knowledge base that had once controlled the galaxy's greatest military force. "Jake," she called out, "I'm getting reports from the Outer Rim. Zephyrian forces are falling back to their core worlds. They're trying to organize a last stand." Jake nodded, feeling the network flow through his mind. He could see the entire battlefield as if he were floating above it. Every human ship, every enemy position, every possible outcome. The ancient tactical programs were running calculations that would have taken normal computers years to complete. "They're making a mistake," he said. "By retreating to their core worlds, they're trapping themselves. We can cut off their supply lines and force them to surrender without destroying their civilian populations." Amy looked surprised. "You're planning to spare their civilians?" Jake's expression softened slightly. "We're not the monsters our ancestors became. We remember their mistakes too. The goal is to end the threat, not to commit genocide." Across the galaxy, human commanders received updated orders through the Heritage Network. Instead of pressing their attacks to complete destruction, they began surgical strikes designed to cripple Zephyrian military capability while protecting innocent lives. The Zephyrian Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for generations, was falling apart in less than 24 hours. Their mighty fleets were scattered, their supply lines cut, their leadership in chaos. What had taken them decades to build was being dismantled in days by an enemy that fought with the accumulated wisdom of 50,000 years of warfare. Emperor Vex sent desperate messages to other species, begging for help against the human onslaught. But the galaxy remembered what the Zephyrians had done to weaker races. No one answered their calls for aid. As Jake watched the final Zephyrian strongholds fall, he felt the weight of ancient responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had awakened to its true nature, but with that awakening came the memory of why they had chosen exile in the first place. They were very good at war. Perhaps too good. The galaxy was learning once again why humans had once been called the Deathmakers, and why even their own ancestors had feared what they might become. 3 months after the awakening began, the galaxy looked very different. The Zephyrian Empire had fallen completely, their fleets destroyed or surrendered, their leaders captured or fled. But humanity had not become the conquerors that many species feared they would become. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, now renamed the Peaceful Sword, as it approached the former Zephyrian homeworld. The planet below had once been the center of a military empire that terrorized half the galaxy. Now it was a world in chaos, with millions of civilians struggling to survive without their government. "Captain," Amy Brooks reported from her station, "we're receiving distress calls from the surface. Food shortages, medical emergencies, power grid failures. Their infrastructure is collapsing." Jake nodded. This was exactly what he had expected. The ancient knowledge flowing through his mind included lessons about what happened when empires fell too quickly. Civilian populations always suffered the most. "Begin relief operations," he ordered. "Medical supplies to the hospitals, food to the distribution centers, engineering teams to restore power. We came here to help, not to rule." Lisa Park looked up from her navigation console. "Sir, Admiral Chen is requesting a conference with all sector commanders. She wants to discuss the formation of the new galactic government." Jake felt a mix of anticipation and worry. The Heritage Network had given humanity incredible military power, but it had also restored memories of their ancestors' greatest mistakes. The ancient humans had been so good at war that they had nearly destroyed the galaxy through their conquests. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in a virtual meeting with human commanders from across the galaxy. Admiral Lisa Chen appeared on the main screen, along with General Steve Parker from Earth and dozens of other leaders who had emerged during the awakening. "The Zephyrian threat is ended," Chen announced. "Their military is completely destroyed, their government has surrendered, and their slave camps have been liberated. But now we face a bigger question. What do we do next?" General Parker leaned forward in his chair. "The galaxy is looking to us for leadership. Dozens of species have sent ambassadors asking if we plan to take control. They remember the old legends about the predecessors, and they're afraid we'll become conquerors like our ancestors." Jake thought about the ancient files Amy had translated. The original human empire had started with good intentions too. They had wanted to bring order to a chaotic galaxy, to protect weaker species from aggressive ones, but power had corrupted them turning protectors into oppressors. We can't make the same mistakes our ancestors made, Jake said. The Heritage Network shows us their memories, including the terrible things they did. We have to be better than they were. Admiral Chen nodded. I agree. That's why I'm proposing we establish a new system, one based on protection rather than domination. We use our military strength to keep the peace, but we don't rule anyone. The idea that emerged from their discussions was revolutionary. Instead of creating a new human empire, they would establish a galactic protection service. Human fleets would patrol space to prevent aggressive species from attacking weaker ones, but each world would govern itself according to its own laws and customs. Ambassador Karen White, who had been listening from the Galactic Council station, spoke up. The other species are ready to accept this arrangement. They've seen what we can do when we're angry. They'd rather have us as protectors than as enemies. Over the following weeks, the new system took shape. Human ships positioned themselves at strategic points throughout the galaxy, ready to respond to any threats to peaceful species. Ancient human technology was shared with allied worlds, but only defensive systems that could protect them from aggressors. The Zephyrian homeworld became a test case for humanity's new approach. Instead of conquering the planet, humans helped rebuild its infrastructure and establish a democratic government. Former Zephyrian slaves were given the choice to return to their homeworlds or stay and help build a better society. Emperor Vex and his war criminals faced trial for their crimes, but the trials were fair and followed galactic law. Jake served as one of the judges, using his enhanced understanding of justice to ensure that punishment fit the crimes without becoming revenge. You could have destroyed us completely, Vex said during his sentencing. Your ancestors would have wiped out our entire species. Jake looked at the former emperor with eyes that held 50,000 years of human wisdom. Our ancestors made many mistakes. We remember those mistakes so we don't repeat them. You will serve your sentence, but your people will have the chance to build something better. The changes weren't limited to military matters. Human scientists began sharing advanced technology with other species, always focusing on improvements that would help rather than harm. Medical advances that could cure diseases affecting multiple species, agricultural techniques that could feed starving worlds, energy systems that could power civilizations without damaging their environments. Dr. Amy Brooks led a team that established new universities where young beings from different species could learn together. The curriculum included history lessons about the old human empire, ensuring that future generations would understand the dangers of unchecked power. On Earth, the hidden facilities were converted from weapons factories into research centers. The ancient technology that had once built planet-destroying weapons now created tools for healing and building. Children who had awakened with warrior instincts were taught to channel their abilities toward protection and construction rather than destruction. The Heritage Network evolved too. Instead of being purely a military coordination system, it became a way for humans to share knowledge and wisdom across the galaxy. Every human remained connected, but the network now emphasized cooperation and learning rather than warfare. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, established his headquarters on the ancient station where it had all begun. The station became a symbol of humanity's transformation, a place where weapons of mass destruction had been turned into tools for galactic peace. Amy, he said one day as they walked through the station's restored halls, do you think we've broken the cycle? Have we really learned from our ancestors' mistakes? Amy smiled, looking out at the stars through a massive viewing window. I think we've made a good start. The Heritage Network gives us the wisdom to be strong without being cruel, powerful without being corrupt. Our children are growing up knowing both our capabilities and our responsibilities. The galaxy settled into a new age of peace. Aggressive species found themselves facing immediate human intervention if they attacked their neighbors. Peaceful species discovered they could trade and explore without fear of conquest. The ancient balance that humanity's ancestors had tried to create through force was finally achieved through wisdom and restraint. Jake often thought about the irony of their situation. Humanity had spent 50,000 years trying to forget their violent nature, only to discover that remembering, it was the key to transcending it. By accepting what they had been, they could choose what they wanted to become. The children born after the awakening grew up as something new, beings with the tactical genius of ancient warriors but the moral wisdom of a species that had learned from its mistakes. They played games that taught strategy and cooperation equally. They studied both the arts of war and the sciences of peace. Years passed, and the new order held. The galaxy remained stable, protected by guardians who understood that true strength came not from the ability to destroy but from the wisdom to know when not to use that ability. And in the depths of space, ancient stations continued their silent watch, ready to awaken again if humanity ever forgot the lessons of the past, or if the galaxy faced threats that required the return of the Deathmakers. But for now, peace reigned, protected by those who remembered war well enough to prevent it.